You check your bank account before you fall asleep. The number hasn't moved much in months. Meanwhile, a guy at work just leased a new SUV, and everyone at the office already thinks he's crushing it. You don't know this yet, but you might already be richer than him. If that number sounds familiar, tell me in the comments, and subscribe, because what you're about to see will change the way you look at every office parking lot for good. Ryan Coleman pulls into the same parking lot he's pulled into for 11 years. Same lane, same spot near the fence, same Corolla with 140,000 miles on it. He's barely out of the car when Derek climbs down from a brand new Audi, the kind that still smells like the dealership, and half the floor turns to look. Someone whistles. Someone says Derek's finally made it. Ryan just nods, grabs his lunch bag off the seat, and walks in through the back door like he does every morning. He's not upset, not exactly. He's done everything he was supposed to do. Steady job, steady paycheck, a 401k he barely looks at. And yet some mornings, watching a guy like Derek walk in, it feels like everyone else is moving forward and he's standing perfectly still. Here's the thing about a lease like Derek's. It looks like arrival, but for a lot of people, it's really just a longer, quieter version of struggling. New vehicle prices have climbed high enough that a typical monthly payment now sits well above what most households budgeted for a car even 5 years ago. And a growing share of buyers are stretching those loans out past 6 years just to make the payment fit their paycheck. That's not a detail people mention at the water cooler. Nobody leans over and says, "By the way, this comes with a payment I'll be making until my daughter starts middle school." Ryan doesn't know any of that yet. All he knows is the feeling that settles in every time Derek walks past his desk in a fresh jacket, talking about a weekend trip, dropping the name of a restaurant Ryan's never been to. It's a small feeling, almost embarrassing to admit. Not envy, exactly. More like falling behind in a race he didn't know he'd signed up for. He starts doing the math on his own Corolla, wondering if it's finally time to trade it in for something that says a little more about who he's become. Nothing dramatic. Just a passing thought while he's filling out a loan pre-approval he saw advertised online. The kind of thought that quietly turns into a decision if nobody interrupts it. And that's exactly where most people in Ryan's position end up. Not because they're careless, but because looking like you're falling behind is one of the most uncomfortable feelings there is. And a new set of keys feels like the fastest way to make it stop. Ryan was about 20 minutes from doing exactly that. Then his uncle called about something completely unrelated and mentioned, almost in passing, a number that stopped Ryan cold. It turns out Ryan's uncle used to work with Derek's father, and somewhere in the small talk he mentioned that Derek had been stressed lately. Something about a car payment north of $1,100 a month. On top of a couple of credit cards he'd been rotating for over a year. Ryan didn't ask for that information. It just landed in his lap. The way the truth about someone's finances usually does. Sideways and unplanned. He sat with it for a long moment after he hung up. $1,100 a month. Before Derek buys groceries, before rent, before anything, over $1,000 of his paycheck is already spoken for. Already gone to a bank he's never met in person. The jacket, the restaurant, the easy confidence walking through the office door every morning. None of it was proof that Derek had made it. It was proof that Derek had signed something. The very things Ryan had been quietly measuring himself against turned out to be the receipts of someone else's risk, not someone else's win. And that's when a harder question showed up, one Ryan couldn't quite shake. Nobody had ever sat him down and explained any of this. Not in school, not at his first job, not anywhere. He'd learned how to read a blueprint, how to calculate load tolerances down to the decimal, but nobody had ever taught him how to read a person's actual financial position, or his own. He'd spent over a decade assuming that looking successful and being financially secure were roughly the same thing, because nobody had ever bothered to draw the line between them. So the question sitting in front of Ryan now wasn't who looked richer walking through that parking lot. The real question was quieter and a lot more useful. What do the actual signs of wealth look like? The ones that don't show up in a parking lot at all. And why had nobody ever shown them to him before now? Once you start looking for it, real wealth turns out to move through levels, quiet stages that almost never show up on the outside. The first level is simply knowing where your money actually goes. Not a rough guess, an actual number. People at this level track every dollar for at least a few months. Not out of obsession, but because you can't fix a leak you've never located. It sounds almost too basic to matter, and that's exactly why most people skip it. The second level is automation. This is where money stops depending on willpower. At this stage, a portion of every paycheck moves into retirement and savings accounts before it ever touches a checking account. So there's nothing left to decide. Nothing left to talk yourself out of on a hard week. Right now, someone maxing out a workplace retirement account can put away tens of thousands of dollars a year between their own contributions and any employer match, plus a separate health savings account if they have one. Say someone consistently invests around $1,500 a month starting at 30 and earns a historically reasonable long-term return. By the time they reach 60, that could grow into well over $2 million. This is just an illustrative example to help you understand the power of long-term compounding. Your actual results will depend on your income, expenses, returns, and investment choices. The third level is freedom from debt that doesn't serve you. Not all debt is the enemy here. A cheap, fixed-rate mortgage locked in years ago can be left alone on purpose. But anything charging double-digit interest, anything tied to a car payment or a credit card carried month to month, gets targeted and eliminated as fast as possible. People at this level aren't debt-free because they got lucky. They're debt-free because they treated high-interest debt like a fire that needed putting out immediately, not a bill that could wait. And the fourth level is the quiet one. The one almost nobody talks about, because there's nothing left to perform. This is where someone has enough of a cushion, enough consistency behind them, that they simply stop needing anyone to notice. They're not hiding their success. They've just run out of reasons to advertise it. The car stays old, the clothes stay plain, not because they can't afford better, but because better stopped being the point a long time ago. Ryan read through those 4 levels twice. He wasn't at the 4th one, not even close. But somewhere around automation, he stopped and sat with it. His 401k contribution had been sitting untouched at the default rate since the day he was hired, quietly doing exactly what it was supposed to do without him ever noticing. He was already on the ladder. He just hadn't looked down long enough to see it. Ryan didn't overhaul his whole life that week. He did something smaller. He logged into his benefits portal and bumped his 401k contribution up by a few percentage points. Then opened the health savings account he'd never bothered to set up and let both of them run on autopilot. He canceled the loan pre-approval tab he'd left open for 3 days. He didn't tell Derek any of this. He didn't need to. What surprised him more was a conversation he had with his daughter a few nights later. She'd asked why they didn't have a car like the one Derek's kid bragged about at school. In the past, Ryan might have brushed it off or made a joke. This time he sat with her for a minute and told her something closer to the truth. That the car in the driveway wasn't a sign of anything. That the real plan was happening quietly, somewhere she couldn't see. And one day it would mean he never had to lie to her about what freedom actually costs. Driving home the next evening in the same tired Corolla, Ryan noticed something had shifted. The dent in the bumper hadn't changed. The mileage kept climbing the way it always had, but the feeling behind the wheel was different. Where there used to be a quiet sense of falling behind, there was something closer to relief. He wasn't chasing anyone. He wasn't performing for anyone either. He was just driving home to a life that was quietly, steadily becoming exactly what it looked like it wasn't. And that's the thing that actually separates two people standing in the same parking lot. Real wealth was never meant to be seen. It's meant to be felt. In the quiet minute before you fall asleep, checking a number that no longer scares you. That's the whole difference. If you're ready to stop comparing and start building your own next level, subscribe to Money Doctrine and tell me in the comments, which level are you standing on right now?